So it's the Annapurna Sanctuary Trek. I was really lucky to do this last autumn, and it is a fantastic trek. So my name is Louise Lawrence. I've been working for Earth's Edge for 5 years now and done over 25 expeditions of them. But I've also been working in the outdoors for over 25 years as well. It's a little bit embarrassing, so long. But this was in Kenya, getting excited about the waterfalls. And this is Annapurna Base Camp on a really sunny morning. So it looks quite beautiful, quite spectacular. Earth's Edge itself, it was founded in 2007 out in India, and then came back home and has gradually worked up to do the multi-trips that it does today. So the trek overview. So it is a spectacular place. There is no doubt about that. I was really, really impressed with it. So what we do is day 1 and 2, we fly to Kathmandu. Okay? I don't know, has anyone been to Kathmandu before? Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular place. I love it. I'd go there for the weekend if I could. And then when we arrive in Kathmandu, it's normally in the evening time, depends on the flights, but we stay over in Kathmandu that night, and then the next morning we get up quite early and we fly to Pokhara. And at that point then it's all business. So we have to get permits, we'll have expedition briefs, we'll check your gear, and then at that point you can go and visit this amazing town, which is very impressive, sitting on the edge of a lake, and the coffee shops and restaurants are better than the ones in Dublin. It's a fantastic place to be. So it's a short enough flight, it's only 30 minutes to get there. And then we have the afternoon in Pokhara. Our plane is actually bigger than that one. Just so you know, it's a little bit bigger. That's the one that goes into Lukla. I think we had 2 seats on either side, so it's a little bit more comfortable. And then the next morning we get up and it's just phenomenal. It blew me away. It actually, personally, I think I have seen one of the prettiest places in the world on day 1 trekking. So we drive. Now this drive could vary from an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on the road conditions. They're doing them, they're resurfacing at the moment, so it could take quite a while. And we get to Nayapur, and then we start to walk to Ulari. It's about 7 hours. The first half of it is really lovely, going through the villages, along the edge of the river. There's waterfalls, it's luscious, it's going over nice rope bridges and catching waterfalls like this. And then probably after lunchish, we hit a few steps. And there's about 400 meters of steps up. But we take our time. It's nice and easy. You're at 2,000 meters or so. So it's, and we go through to a village that looks pretty much like this. I have to say, this trek compared to other, say Everest Base Camp, because you're lower for a lot longer, you actually get to see proper village life. People working the land. You're not way up on the plateaus or way up into the valleys until a little bit later on. So you get that lovely feel, and the locals are super friendly and super nice. So that's day 1 of trekking as such. And then this is coming around, I think, to Ulari. But look at it, isn't that fantastic? And that's the holy mountain up behind it. And you get to see that fairly soon on. I don't know if my little clicker, can you see that? No, I can't even see it. I don't know where it's gone. But if you go up that valley here, sorry, I'm just going to run here for a second. That's the valley that eventually brings you up to Annapurna. So what we have to do is we're going around all these lowlands, acclimatizing, and then we go up the valley. So until this point, it's quite spectacular because you end up in a little village perched on the edge like this, and then you look across and you see your next village, but don't look down because you got to go all the way back down to go back up again. So it's quite interesting. It always looks worse than it is. And here we are at Ulari village. And then we walk on to Goripani. And to be honest, they're all just perched in these beautiful locations, looking out onto the valleys and such like. And I found that most times it was cloudy maybe in the afternoon, but we had these beautiful sunny mornings, so you got spectacular views. So you can see the trail here. It's it can be a little bit busy, but it doesn't feel overcrowded by any means. And it's a well-trodden trail and a good bit of steps for the first bit. And then as you can see, you come around onto these terraces, etc. So it's really very pretty. Poon Hill. So day 1, 2, I think it's day 2 of the morning. We have this wonderful opportunity of getting up really, really early. So you get up at about 3, 4 in the morning. And I think we actually got up at 4, gone by 4:30, up onto Poon Hill by 5:30. And then we watch the sun come up over this beautiful vista here. So you can see Annapurna there on the right, and then all the other mountains over on the left. Now it is a little bit of a busy spot because obviously it's a lovely thing to do, and you get a cup of tea up there as well as you watch the sun come up. But it is a pretty special experience to see the sun come up over the Himalayas as such. That was the last trip, the 2 boys. I think it's a great shot, isn't it? And then after that, then we whoever wants to can get up early, comes back down again, has brekkie, and then whoever didn't want to get up, we meet all those, and then we continue on quite a beautiful day. You walk up onto a ridge, and then you're in this forest, and you come down and up over little valleys, and then around to the village where you're going to camp the next night. So this is the kind of terrain at times that we cover. And you can see it's very luscious, absolutely gorgeous. A few bridges to be crossed, which is always quite exciting. So, Chumrong. This is I'm going to go back there one to Chumrong. Telepani to Chumrong. So Chumrong is a lovely village that has 2 coffee shops in it, which is quite nice as well. And again, it's perched on the top. And then from there, what happens is we finish going up and down the valleys, and then you suddenly come into this big, long, flatter valley that goes all the way up to Annapurna. So if you can imagine, 4 days are up and down, acclimatizing, going around, and then we come into the more mountainous terrain. So from here, we go to Bamboo. And Bamboo is a wonderful little village. Now, the village is at this point, because you're stepping into the sanctuary, it's a sacred place. So until quite recently, untouchables weren't allowed in there, women weren't allowed in there, and certain meats aren't allowed in there. So there's a different feel to it. It's not so much village life anymore. It's more of a precious place for everybody. So when we used to, up until this point, you have your nice twin bedrooms. Now we're getting into more mountain life, and you might have a little bunk room instead. And you can see there's a big cave in there. We're coming around to Durali at this point in time where we sleep again. But the walking at this point is much, much easier. It's flatter. And then from Durali, you can come in and you can see how the terrain has changed completely. And we walk up into this beautiful big area here, and you're just surrounded by Annapurna all around you. Stunning, absolutely stunning. As you can see, it's a bit chillier up here actually. We were really lucky. It snowed a little bit overnight, so when we got up the next morning, it was very magical. And look at that. Fantastic. And that's us at base camp the next morning. And up behind here, you see the way you can see the buildings to the left of the sign? That's actually where you sleep. That's the base camp itself. And then to right of us here is the glacier that goes up along there. So you can actually walk across from base camp to the edge of the glacier and see it heading around there to the mountain. Stunning, absolutely stunning. And then we have our walk out, but the walk in is quite long, and the walk out is a lot shorter. So we kind of, if you can imagine, you do kind of a big semicircle to come in, and then to come out, you just go straight back down the valley. So you're only really stepping along the same path for 2 days, okay? And we've lots of stupas and all the rest of it. So then eventually we get back down to Pokhara, and you can see here, perched on this beautiful lake. We have a rest night there, so we go out for dinner, we have a celebratory dinner and enjoy all the fact that we've been on the trail for 10 days and we've had a lovely shower and we're all quite clean again, which is quite nice. But the life, now let me see what the next one here is. Here we are. I mean, that just looks terrible, doesn't it? Perched on the edge of the river having your lunch on the way out. We're waiting for the bus to come and collect us and bring us back to Pokhara there. So a typical day on the trek, I always think this is great. He looks really grumpy and the rest look really happy. So a typical day on the trek is up very early. We're up at about 6, maybe 6:30, depending on what we have to cover in the day. There are some long days, but generally speaking, what we like to do is get up, walk, then have a nice tea break, and then get into our next village at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then we have a big feast, a big lunch, and then you can rest in the afternoon. Because when you're trekking there for 10 or 11 days in a row, it's quite a long time, and there's no official rest days in this trek, because although it's high, it's not super high, we don't get quite high to the very end. You need to rest. You need to recover a good bit. So we try and do it, like the first day is quite a long day, and then after that we'll try and walk and get into camp or get into our next village for a late lunch as such, and then you can rest. And then we start all over again the next morning. Also, the weather patterns that we tended to get were that it was nice in the morning, and then we got a little bit of rain and cloud in the afternoon, so we wanted to be in our next village all tucked up and cozy, and that came down.
What time of year were you there, did you say?
Last October.
Yeah.
So the tea houses themselves, has anyone been in tea houses in Nepal, up in the mountains? Yeah. The communal room is really nice and cozy and warm, and that's where we get all our lovely food. And then the actual bedrooms they don't get heated really. So they're quite basic, but they tend to be really clean and quite pleasant. But this is the room they heat as such. And in the lower part of the trek, 1 or 2 tea houses does have a fire, but on the higher trek they don't have fires. They're not allowed to have fires in that communal room. So it's the body heat and heaters that keep you nice and warm. The food is really good. It is the same menu on each tea house, but it is really, really good. I have to say it's a lot better than base camp. But breakfast are the same things like you would get. You have a choice of porridge, beans on toast, pancakes, and the list is endless. And lunches are always soup and a main course, rice dishes, pasta dishes, meat dishes, until we get a bit higher. And the same then for dinner. So you're fed really, really well. Not the time to diet at all. You don't want to because it's so good. That's the cake shop, which is nice halfway through the trek. And a good cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but the coffee drinker said it was a great cup of coffee as well, so that's quite nice. Here are the guys hanging out with some of the locals. And does that look like a little bit of a market behind them? Some of the villages have markets along the way, so you do get the opportunity to get a few trinkets and things, mementos, and support the local villagers as well. So rooms, toilets and showers, they're the rooms that you would be sleeping in, although you can't see inside it. Toilets on this trek are pretty good actually. Really good until the last 2 tea houses. And there were showers nearly in every tea house that we stayed in. Sometimes you had to pay for them, sometimes they were free of charge. You'd always get cold water free of charge, but sometimes they gave you warm water free of charge as well. But if you wanted to, you could nearly, I would say 85% of the tea houses, you could have a shower as well. So that makes a big difference for some people. So it's a fully supported expedition. So on the trail, you only have to carry your day pack. So you only have to carry your little pack on your back. Your actual big pack, your duffel bag that we'll go through shortly, that gets carried by mules or porters. So all you've got is your little 6 kilo bag with your water, your waterproofs, sun hat, a camera, etc. Also with your expedition, you get a qualified Irish guide, and you get a doctor comes along as well with a big med kit in a big bag like that as well. We do have, the guides all bring satellite phones with them, so we contact the office every day as well. So if you don't get reception, we can still get messages backwards and forwards to home. All the food is included. I don't know how many birthdays they had on that trip. There seems to be an awful lot of birthday cakes. On some of the tea houses, they do make cakes for us, which is quite nice if you're lucky enough to have someone with a birthday on your trip. They all seem happy about that. So the 16-day itinerary is very important. We need those travel days at the beginning. So Kathmandu overnight, and then Pokhara, and then we start the next day. And then it's designed that although we're around 2,000, 3,000 meters before we head up to 4,000 plus, it's done nice and slowly so that you can acclimatize. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was I think up until day 8,
Yeah.
you were kind of around 2-3.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go to 3-3, and then you go to 4-3.
Yeah.
In 2 days.
Yes, it's perfect. None of us had felt altitude. Well, you feel altitude, but none of us got sick from altitude along the way because it's done at a nice slow pace, and you're really not climbing. Although it looks like you're only going about 800 meters up, so yeah, it works well. Works well.
So what's the success rate on this trip?
100% so far. Yeah. Would you mind terribly if I answer these questions at the end? Keep it. Yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine. Just keep that one and remind me, and I'll answer it at the end. So, AMS, altitude mountain sickness. So, it's a nice steady trek. So, what we do is to control mountain sickness is you walk really slowly, you rest really well, you feed yourself really well, and you rehydrate. And so the itinerary is designed to be that we can walk those shortish 5-hour days, rest in the afternoon, acclimatize, sleep. But even if you can't sleep, as long as you rest in your bed, as your eyes relax, don't get panicked about the fact that you can't sleep, and then you're fed really well. And we encourage you to drink 3 to 4 liters a day. You can take Diamox if you want to. Some people do, some people don't on this trek, but it's definitely at a nice pace, and it's nice and easy. And on your question there's helicopters come up and down the valley, so we can either, if you did get unwell, we can either get you to the helicopter at certain villages, or a mule will take you out. Okay. So weather. We tend to go there during the dry seasons, but because we're in the mountains, it's always a little bit unpredictable. And you get very localized weather as well. So all we can do is travel at the right times. But as I said, on our trip, it was nice during the morning. It was a little bit rainy in the afternoon. Maybe on other days, it might be rainy for 1 or 2 days, and then it'll be dry for the rest of the trip. So the beginning part of the trip, is it's quite warm actually. It was definitely shorts and t-shirts weather until we got a little bit higher, and then obviously when you get up to the base camp, we had snow, so it's quite cold. Excuse me. And because you're in the mountains, when there's sun, shall I press that button? When there's sun, it's warm, but the moment the sun goes in, because the ambient temperature, it does get a little bit chilly in the evening. But nothing so cold. Like, yeah, up in base camp, you weren't really sitting outside, but down in the lower camps, you could definitely sit outside in the evenings and look at the stars and have, dare I say, a beer at the lower altitudes, or your cup of tea, and it was all very nice. Fitness and training. So I say to people that the only way to get fit for a trip is to go walking, basically. To get fit for a sport, you need to do that sport. But obviously getting out into the hills for some people is quite tricky. So if you can do some aerobic fitness, strengthening the legs, You see that middle photo on the top there for Annapurna? That's quite important. Okay, there are a few steps at the beginning of the trek, so get them all nice and strong. And I know time for people, we live really busy lives, so time is quite tricky. So what you need to do is, you're making me laugh, stop it, is literally to get out in the evenings and find those little hills and interval train up them, get out into the gym, anything you can do to get yourself nice and strong. But obviously, the fitter you are, the more enjoyable it is. But again, we walk at a nice steady pace, and we have lots of rest, so it's good. But I would definitely, certain good, strong base fitness is very important. My last talk, I said this is not day 3, but no one laughed, so I'm not going to say it on this one. So it's not technical. We're not going to see any of this. It's definitely nice paths all the way. It's a shame, but there we go. 2 months out, we have a pre-departure weekend. Now, guides love to see people turning up for the pre-departure weekend. It is a really nice weekend in that you get 2 days walking. So a lot of the time, especially for multi-day trips, it's quite difficult to get out one day after another. And that's really important in your training regime, is to get out maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days in a row. So you get to go out 2 days in a row out into the hills. We have a good old talk in the morning about, go through the itinerary in great detail, the equipment, logistics. You can ask the doctor any questions. And we go through gear really well. We go through your kit list and make sure you understand exactly what gear you have to have. So it's quite important to go through all that. And then obviously you're going to meet people that are on the trip with you. And if you're going as a solo traveler, it's really nice to see some other people so that when you turn up at the airport, there's a friendly face there to go and chat to. We would highly recommend it. It's part of the cost of your trip. So you can't give that one as an excuse. And obviously then, some of the local guides. On these trips, very much like-minded people. So normally it's really nice out to meet all these interesting people.